Hey everyone, Quincy Larson here with freeCodeCamp. I am thrilled today to introduce the 2021 Data Science Curriculum Expansion. This is going to be massive. We've been working on it for several months, like planning, and this is actually something that I've wanted to do for years. We're going to teach new certifications in mathematics, data science, and machine learning. And in order to teach these complicated hierarchical topics, we are going to have to pull out all the stops and roll out some really cool new learning experiences. First of all, I want to remind everybody that we are raising money to be able to bring on some additional instructional staff so that we can design these curricula. There are a lot of topics that we ourselves have expertise on. For example, Bo has written an entire course from Manning that's focused on deep learning. So he knows a lot about neural networks and things like that. But we don't have as much expertise in like supervised learning or unsupervised learning. We don't have a lot of expertise in teaching calculus or linear algebra. So we're really looking for some computer science professors and some mathematics professors who do have experience, whom we can bring on to help design some of those projects. So if you decide that you're willing to donate to our nonprofit, if you're already donating $5 a month as one of the 7,000 people who supports our nonprofit's mission, fantastic. You don't have to donate, but if you do want to donate, we would absolutely welcome it. And the big news is Daryl Silver is matching all donations 100%, up to $150,000. So if you give $100, it's going to be like you gave $200 because Daryl's going to give $100 as well to match that $100 that you gave. And of course, freeCodeCamp is a donor-supported nonprofit, 501c3, tax exempt, which means that there's a good chance that you'll be able to deduct this from your taxes, depending on which country you live in as well. And I can get you a donation receipt for that. So be sure to make a donation to our nonprofit for this very specific purpose of us helping build this new curriculum. Now, I'm going to talk about the curriculum. There's quite a bit to cover, and there are going to be a few demos, so bear with me. First, what is the current curriculum? What does it look like? Well, the curriculum represents a shortest path to getting a developer job. And here's our landing page. Let's go to the curriculum section here. And just because we can, let's switch to the night mode so it'll be a little easier on the eyes. After this nice inspirational quote, we're going to see that the current curriculum is mostly web development, and we do have some Python development in here, but we're going to dramatically expand this. So what is the new curriculum going to look like? Well, the first thing to note is that the curriculum is a line. It's linear. We're not trying to introduce branching paths. I personally strongly believe that data science is kind of a natural progression. After you've worked as a developer, you go back, you learn some additional math, you learn some additional skills, and then you can become a data scientist. And if you really want to get into it, you can become like a machine learning engineer, and you're going to learn even more math for that. But the logical hopping off points for being able to go out and get a developer job, I would say you can go and get one of the full stack development jobs out there. About half of all developer jobs are web development jobs. And if you're a full stack developer, you should be able to do pretty much anything. You may need to learn some new skills on the job, but this will give you a general framework with which you can learn. And so that's responsive web design, JavaScript algorithms, data structures, front-end libraries. There's a new certification that we're creating that we're very proud of that we're going to demo in just a few minutes, where you're in VS Code and you've got a command line and you're basically learning Bash and SQL and Postgres and Git and lots of Linux commands interactively. Very cool. In VS Code, in a browser on freeCodeCamp. So Tom's going to demo that in a minute. Then APIs and microservices, quality assurance, information security. All really important web development concepts. Then, if you want to stick around, or if you've already got a web development job and you want to expand your skills, data science. We use the Python ecosystem extensively. It's very powerful. You can do pretty much everything in Python that you need to do with data science, and it's growing very fast. There's this huge critical mass of talent that's contributing to the Python ecosystem. We're going to teach scientific computing with Python. Then we're going to get into the foundational math. And the way we're teaching math is within Jupyter Notebooks. Eric is going to demo what that looks like in just a moment. But basically, we've got tests that run within Jupyter Notebook, and you'll be able to basically learn math by coding. You'll take mathematical expression, you'll implement that in code, and you'll work with code instead of like the way you might traditionally cross things out with a pen and paper and move things around. There's a lot of value in that too, but we're going to assume that people are busy adults. They don't have time to go back to school and learn the way you would have learned math in like primary, secondary school. They want to just jump in and learn it in the most practical, time effective way, and a way that's integrated with the contemporary tools we have. Nowadays, like unless you're out on like a desert island, you probably have access to some kind of computer that may be very powerful that you can use to do math. And so it's less about knowing how to do math by hand and more about knowing how to use computers to get whatever you need done. Now that still involves you understanding concepts, and we're going to teach you those concepts. We're going to drill on those heavily through a series of tons of very rigorous projects. But the way you're going to learn math is going to be a little bit faster than going back and learning 12 years of math and then some university level math as well. Instead, you're just going to jump straight into it. But this will assume that you haven't done math since high school. And that you may have not even done that much of math in high school. That's how basic we're going to start here. So we're going to do foundational mathematics. Then we're going to get into algorithmic problem solving. You'll be able to take the math you've learned and apply it to learning, greedy algorithms, divide and conquer algorithms, dynamic programming, things like that. Then we get into the real workhorse of data science, which is statistics. And here we're going to teach you in the discrete statistics section all the statistics you can learn without actually knowing calculus. And then we're going to turn around and apply that data engineering, exploratory data analysis. With this, you'll probably have the basic data science skills that you need to be able to go to a small business or startup and start gleaning insights from their data as a data scientist. But if you want to work for like a government or like a giant corporation that has tons of data, big data is they used to call it. I don't know if they still call it that, but like lots of data, essentially like, American Express level data or Visa level data or, the IRS level data or something like that, right? Like those kinds of data sets, NASA or CERN data, you're going to need a lot more than that. You're going to need to know calculus. So that's the first thing we're going to teach you in the advanced data science section, which is, single multivariable calculus. Then we're going to get into the advanced probability and statistics you can learn once you know calculus. Then we're going to learn linear algebra and matrix algebra, which are very useful for doing machine learning. And then, of course, machine learning itself. We're going to cover all three big branches of machine learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. So if you're counting, that's like 19 certifications. Each of those takes about 300 hours, a conservative estimate. In practice, we had one person who went through 6 different certifications. They speed ran it, and it was an experienced developer, Florin Pop. He speed ran the entire like 6 certification curriculum in 29 days. That's about as fast as you can probably do it, and this is 3 times that. So you're going to be hard pressed to get through this within even a few years. I think most likely you're going to be coming back to freeCodeCamp after you've been working, and you're going to continue to extend your skills. And that's what learning is all about. It should be lifelong learning, So you're going to be able to put this lifelong learning in action with a massive curriculum that will continue to help you grow as a developer. So let's take a look at what the curriculum actually entails, just to give you an idea, the level of specificity and atomicity that we've broken it down to, if I'm pronouncing those words correctly. So like this is the web development curriculum. This is just a quick curriculum sheet that shows you like all the different topics we're covering for like, this is just for the responsive web design certification, but you can see we make it very granular. We cover things in extreme detail because not only do we want to cover them, but we want a lot of repetition. So you're applying, and then later you're reapplying, and you're reapplying, and you're building lots of different projects to apply your skills. And then this sheet, which I have a link to, by the way, down in the description if you want to visit this yourself. If you go over to, for example, the relational database certification, which you're going to see a demo of in a minute. We've got like all the different bash commands that we want to go through, all the different, a lot of them, SQL, Postgres. So you're going to learn all these different commands, all these different concepts, and then you're just going to keep applying them over and over through all these projects over here. And another cool thing we're doing is we're taking the certification projects, and instead of having 5 certification projects at the end of the certification, we're going to have like level, boss battle, level, boss battle. We're going to try to have it like mix up the proverbial gameplay a little bit. So you'll have kind of like hand-holdy tutorials where each step takes, maybe a minute or two to get through. And then you're going to have like big ambiguous challenges where it might take you a few hours to be able to figure out how to build this project. Both are very valuable. And again, we've got like all these different certifications mapped out with their varying degrees of development. But like, for example, reinforcement learning, neural networks and stuff, Markov chains, stuff like that. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. So this, again, is in the link below. So at this point, I want to hand it over to Eric, who's going to demo what the freeCodeCamp learning experience is like for mathematics inside Jupyter Notebook. Before I do that, though, I just want to remind you one more time, we are raising funds. We budget about $300,000 to bring on some instructors to focus on this intently, and it's probably going to take about 2 years. So this is the budget for 2 years for bringing on a couple of math instructors, maybe 3 or 4, depending on how many of them are doing part-time. A lot of instructors they're teaching. They work at a lot of different schools. So we just like to build a really strong team of people who have expertise, not just in these fields, but in teaching these fields to help us build out these curricula. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric. Eric's going to show what the Jupyter Notebook experience looks like. Take it away, Eric.
Hi, y'all. Eric here. So with this little demo here, I want to give you a glimpse of what studying math will look like on freeCodeCamp. And so by the end of this, I hope I can convince you that although math is hard, we can make it a little less intimidating and more interactive, along with teaching you about some tools that allow you to experiment with math, similar how you would in programming. And so here we have a little problem that you might experience in, say, an algebra class you might have. So here we want to solve this system of equations, and we want to return the answer as SymPy equations. And so SymPy is the library we'll use to help us manipulate and solve math equations using Python and our computer. So here's the little basic solution for it, or at least where we'll start with. So here we're just going to import some of the important libraries I might use, and then we're going to put a lot of our work into this main function. And then the last bit of lines of code here are just to show us our answer. So what if we run this? What do we get? So I'm going to run this. So just run this cell, and it's going to output some stuff. So here we're just outputting the equations themselves. And so this is just showing that we can encode the math equations from above in Python. So you notice that they are the same. And so we can do that here on this line where we create an equation using the EQ function in SymPy, and then we just define the left and then the right side of our equations. Okay, so say you had your code ready to go, and you want to test to see if you got it right. And so in this notebook, we have some testing code that's hidden a little bit, but you can test your code by going to cell and running all. So we're going to run and see these equations again. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll get this text here that'll show you that your code is run and tested. So there's a lot of text here, but I would focus on every other line of that was output. So here's one test. You should have a function ex that was defined, and so we had that. So our test says okay. And then you can notice that some of these tests did fail because we didn't pass some of those tests that we might have to see if our code is correct. Okay, so to try to solve this equation without taking too much time, I'm just going to paste in an example solution here so we can put our work in the middle. So here we're just redefining each of these equations and doing mathematical operations on each of the left and right hand sides. And so not only can you add and subtract numbers like we have here, we can even add and subtract variables. So as a way for you to test and experiment with math that with this. So let's run this. Okay. And so similar in math, we want to show our steps. And so one thing you could do is just display your answers. And so here we can see our equations nicely formatted. And in the end, we get our answers as x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 6. So perfect. So now let's run our cells again. See if our tests are good. So we scroll down a bit. And what do you know? So all our tests are now looking good. And we get an okay at the end. So one quick demonstration of some other features of SymPy. So we can also plot our results and see what those results might be. So here is some code to do that. So I'm going to plot the same equations that we had before. So we run that, have that run. And so here's a visual representation of what that equation is. And so it gives us another idea of the equation, the answers that we got, and trying to link that with how we might actually plot that as well. And then one last thing I want to show with the power of SymPy and Python is that say we had all these equations and we wanted to double check our answers. And so SymPy actually has a way to solve these equations for us. And so this may be a powerful way for more advanced math users to save a little bit of time, but also for newer learners of math to try to have some tools to help them find out what is the finish line to a problem and then try to make steps in between to figure out what their math and to correct their math rather to get to the right answer. So I've placed in some code that'll do this for us. So I won't get into too much detail of some of the equation functions we're using, but this last line here is the one that will actually solve our equation. And when we run this, we get our output as the same answer as we got before. So with this little demo, I hope I've inspired you to look at math a little bit differently and that you may have some fun programming some math. So thank you.
Welcome back. Thank you very much, Eric, for demoing that. It's really impressive. Eric's been doing a lot of hard critical thinking on this, figuring out how to implement all this stuff, figuring how we can use Jupyter Notebook. And we're going to try to host an entire cluster of Jupyter Notebook servers so that people can do these exercises right on freeCodeCamp. We've already got kind of a cluster going, and we're load testing it to see if we can actually afford to host everything ourselves. If not, we've got some fallback plans. But Jupyter Notebook, the entire Python community, like huge shout out to them. They're doing so much to make it easier to learn in the browser. And Jupyter Notebook is not just a learning tool; it's an industrial grade tool that like data scientists use all the time to do their work. So you're going to be using the same tools to learn that you're going to be using when you're actually in the field. And speaking of tools that are used in the field, by far the most widely used text code editor, at least here at freeCodeCamp, like everybody on the team uses VS Code. And I think a lot of people in the field are using VS Code now. There are plenty of other good IDEs, but VS Code is great, and it's growing pretty steadily in adoption. You're going to be able to build your full stack projects in VS Code on freecodecamp.org. You're going to have access to a file system, a command line, all that stuff that you would be able to have if you were developing locally. So Tom is going to tell us all about that. He's going to demo some of the relational database certification. Take it away, Tom.
This is what some of our upcoming lessons are going to look like. We have VS Code running inside of a VM, which is running inside the browsers. So we can take advantage of all the tools VS Code has, like this integrated terminal, or install anything we want to the VM pretty much, like Python or SQL databases. And in this tutorial, you'll be writing a bash program that interacts with Postgres. So I'm just going to go through some of the lessons and show you what it's all about. This first one is to log in to the shell here, and you just hit enter and the tests run automatically, and then you can move on to the next one. So we're going to list the databases to see what databases are here, and those are the databases that are there. The first chunk of this tutorial is building out the database structure and adding some information to it, and then sort of the second part is to build the script then to interact with it, and it's a little program where you kind of enter a menu option and rent a bike out and return bikes, I guess. So for this first part, we're just building out the database structure, and the third lesson, I think, is to create a database named bikes. And once you enter the right command, you can move on to the next lesson, and then we will list the databases to make sure it got created, and then we will connect to the database to start adding things, and then we will create table bikes for the inventory, and we will display the table to make sure it got created. Then we will add a column named bike ID. That is the primary key. And then we will look at the details of our table. So there's a lot of like back and forth of kind of creating something or doing something and then viewing it in the database. So it's very interactive, and I think it's a great way to learn. So after you have created your database and added all your rows, this is where you start creating your script. And what you're going to do is open a second terminal, so you have one here to interact with the database directly, and one where you can run your script and do other things. And so we're just going to create a file for our script, and then we are going to open it up so we can start building. So we're just going to add the shebang at the top here, and then the tests are going to run, and we can move on to the next lesson, and then we get some nifty little add your code hints right here, and we will echo this title, and then we're going to change the permissions so it's executable, and then we're going to run it and see what happens. Alright, next lesson here is to just create a function, and then we're going to echo out, how may I help you? And call a function, and then we are going to run the script. There it is. Pretty cool. This is one of the certification projects. All you need to do is build out a database according to all these user stories down here. And that's the whole project. I'm going to see if I can get 1 or 2 of them done. So I'm just going to log in here, create my database, run the tests, and there I did it. Got one done. Next, I need to connect and create my tables. And I got 2 of them done.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom. That was fantastic. And I just want to thank everybody who stuck around this long. This is something we've been planning and working on for this point more than a year. And this fundraiser is a critical part of us being able to afford to bring on instructors and really expedite the creation of these resources. If we are able to raise these funds and bring on these instructors, we'll be able to build this so much faster. Again, I think we'll be able to have some early versions of all these certifications out within 2021, and then steadily refine them through 2022 and beyond. If we don't manage to raise these funds, it could take far longer than that, because probably has to do it with our existing team. And we do have people on our team who have expertise with machine learning, but it's going to be a pale shadow of what it could be if we're able to raise these funds. So again, Daryl Silver is generously matching 100% any donations you make. So be sure to click the link below and go over and just donate whatever you can afford to freeCodeCamp. It means so much to us. I'll get you a tax receipt. I'll give you a receipt for your taxes and everything. Just send me an email, and we'd be over the moon if we can make this work. We're a small donor-supported nonprofit. We're extremely capital efficient. We're going to put these funds to very responsible use, and we're going to build a free learning resource that people around the world will be able to use for free in their browsers at their convenience over many years to come. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the faith that you've put in our community and everything you all are doing to be a part of the community, to help one another, to learn, to spread knowledge, to spread the desire to learn. All of these things are absolutely critical to freeCodeCamp's mission of helping, teach people about technology. Thank you.